From the earliest days of this YouTube channel, chronicling the little discussed, or perhaps once little discussed, public transit transformation going on in Toronto, Canada has been at the center of everything I've done. And so I thought it was time to look at one of the biggest and most underappreciated transit projects I've covered on this channel over the years, now that it's almost done. Hey there, I'm Reece and this is RMTransit, a YouTube channel where we get nostalgic about train lines and YouTube channels. The GO Stouffville line is one of 7 rail lines GO Transit operates, and one of 5 lines which is planned to receive frequent electric train service as part of GO's expansion plans. This line has changed a ton in the last 5 years through a major improvement project and is set to change a lot more, so let's take a look at all of the upgrades. The Stouffville line runs from Union Station in downtown Toronto alongside the Lakeshore East line until Scarborough Station, where the lines diverge shortly after. Stouffville line trains don't call it Scarborough, but that's a video for another day. After diverging, the Stouffville line heads straight north to the current terminus of Line 2 of Toronto's subway and the future terminus of Line 5, and continues all the way to York Region, where it turns east to head through Markham and then turns north again, heading to the edge of the Greenbelt and beyond to Stouffville itself. Just 5 years ago, the vast majority of service on the Stouffville line was rush hour only, in typical North American commuter rail fashion. But, as I've covered in videos over the last couple of years, service on the line has also been introduced on weekends and during late evenings and midday periods between Union Station and Mount Joy at the end of the urbanized area. Hourly service might not sound so good, but the trains are much faster than the subway network, mostly thanks to the high speeds on the Lakeshore East line, and so it's still a compelling option. And trains basically always leave on time, so as long as you remember the regular departure time, they can be super convenient, even when running just once an hour, and trains are generally well used. Before the current round of upgrades, the Stouffville line was pretty visually lacking, to say nothing of the service, but that's changed in a big way. Over the last several years, the core frequent part of the line, which runs from Kennedy Station north to Unionville near downtown Markham, Highway 407, and the Viva bus corridor, has seen some huge change. For one, level crossings have been upgraded with more gates and anti-trespassing pads, and noise walls have been installed to reduce the noise from trains entering local communities. The line has also been largely double-tracked. Previously, a single passing loop just south of Unionville Station had to handle the trains heading north and south during all-day service, passing one another. But with all the new track that's starting to be connected up, service can operate far more frequently. In fact, the signaling on the line is designed for trains every 7 minutes or so. All of that means that there's almost continuous double track or better from Union Station all the way to Unionville. Now, the old stations on the Stouffville line were basic and tired. Concrete curbs with some shelters on them. Fine for low-use commuter stations, but not fine for important transport and community hubs that these stations will become. Fortunately, the 4 stations on the frequent part of the line have all gotten total rethinks, which were also needed to add more platforms so trains could serve the stations on the second track. All 4 stations, Agincourt, Unionville, Kennedy, and Milliken, have gotten complete overhauls, with big platform canopies protecting you from the snow, rain, and sun while you wait for your train, as well as integrated waiting rooms with benches. These alone make the stations much more pleasant places to wait for a train or a friend if you need to, and also give way more visual presence to the facilities. They're also a big step for making the experience of taking the train better. The stations also got upgraded platforms. These are made from concrete so they won't crack and divot like the old asphalt ones. They also have integrated heating systems which will keep snow and ice from accumulating, and yellow tactile edges that feel appropriate for rapid transit. There's also screens which show the upcoming train and its stops. Of course, to get to the second platforms, there are also new pedestrian tunnels, which are basic but nice. And, of course, they feature elevators, which actually have a forward motion design, allowing those with mobility devices to roll in and then roll out. Now, the platforms do not have level boarding, so you still need to take 2 steps into the train, but the stations are designed so that all of the structures allow the platform to be raised around them. The general finishings are also a lot nicer, from the fences to the landscaping and the paving of the access routes, and even the station's signage. There are also some more specific changes at each site. Agincourt got an awesome new building with waiting areas and a modern black-clad look, which is in line with other new stations like Bramalea and Rutherford, and the finishings on the other new Stouffville line stations, as well as the Presto card. There's also a tidied-up parking area, integrated sound walls, and pedestrian paths. These paths extend right down to the end of the platform, where they turn into nice new covered stairs down to Shepherd Avenue. This station will only be more important as high-rises keep going up in the area. and additional roads and bike paths are actually being put in to connect to the high-rise cluster to the south. There's of course also probably eventually going to be an extension of Line 4 of the subway, which I talked about in a recent video. At Unionville, we probably got the most modest upgrade, but the station did get an island platform and an extra third track for turning around the extra service that will terminate here, making it unique on the line. The area around the station is also booming, with a new York University campus and tons of high-density development, which will feed riders to the train service and eventually surround the station site. There are also very nice connections between bus services and train platforms, though I would have liked to see more improvements to the bus loop. Kennedy is actually a bit of an oddball. While it's been upgraded concurrently with the other stations, its upgrade is actually happening as part of the Eglinton Crosstown project. And so while the amenities are the same as the other stations, the design language is in line with the stops on that line. The future southbound platform is also cut short at Kennedy because of the elevated tracks for the Scarborough RT, which will be removed in the next few years because of the Line 2 extension project. I also talked more about that and how the Stouffville line will help plug the gap in another video. The last big upgrade, and probably the biggest transformation, is at Milliken Station, across from the famous Pacific Mall, and tucked behind a few other malls and big box stores. The station has got all the canopies and other nice touches of the other stations, and grounding and prep for future electrification. But it also came along with a grade separation of Steeles Avenue, with 2 huge new pedestrian bridges extending from the platforms and elevators and stairs on both sides, providing a huge presence on the street and great connections, whether arriving on foot or by TTC. They also installed brand new bike lanes from here to Kennedy and Midland, and while they aren't perfect, they are a lot better than Sharrow's. I'd actually say it's a bit disappointing that Agincourt, lying similarly near to Shepherd Avenue, didn't get the same treatment. Plus, there's plans for new high-density development and a new Asian mall here, which will make the station a destination for travel and not just a source. The only thing I really think the station is missing is a big Milliken Go sign on the pedestrian bridges. All in all, the new platforms and facilities have really changed the face of this line, from something austere to something that feels like the high-capacity transport artery it's meant to be, and some of the changes aren't even so immediately obvious. In the long term, the plan for the GO network is to unify the Lakeshore lines and the Kitchener and Stouffville lines into integrated through-running services, so trains from each will seamlessly flow into the other, and a few months back, Metrolinx actually started running a new schedule that was designed for through-running. This means that many Stouffville line trains become Kitchener line trains heading through West Toronto into Brampton and beyond when they arrive at Union Station. This just isn't very well advertised in schedules or on platform information screens. One of the fun bits of trivia that I think will come from this in the long term is that the platform canopies at both Kennedy and Mount Dennis, being part of the Crosstown project, share a very similar design language, which will remind riders of their passing Eglinton Avenue and Line 5. And things aren't stopping. Right now, service on the Stouffville line is back to its traditional rush hour only south, while some work is hopefully completed on finishing up the stations and double tracking. However, once that's done, service should be able to run every half hour, including in the counterpeak direction, which will be a big nice change for those trying to head into the suburbs in the morning or into the city in the evening. There are also new stations happening. I already referenced East Harbour, and you also have the stations on the Kitchener line, which Stouffville line trains will service, like Liberty Village and St. Clair Old Weston. Plus, there was an already under construction station at Finch and Kennedy, which will look very similar to Milliken and will also include a grade separation. Now, right now, Lakeshore East, Via, and Stouffville service is basically all cramming onto 2 tracks instead of 3 on the Lakeshore East line, while new retaining walls, bridges, and widened embankments are put in to enable quad tracking from Union to Scarborough, as well as the new East Harbour station that'll let you switch from the aforementioned lines to the new Ontario Line subway. Once that's done and new signaling goes in, the Stouffville line will have all double track from Union to Scarborough and from Kennedy to Unionville, leaving a short section of single track between the two. While this section will definitely need to be doubled and grade separated eventually, it's actually not a real problem for frequent service, since it takes well less than 5 minutes to traverse it. So even every 10-minute service can be done fairly problem-free with that last bit of single track remaining. In addition, hopefully we can see some more frequent service extended further north within Markham in the future, since dense development exists right up to Mount Joy, and it would be great to see hourly service to these small towns within the Greenbelt. All of that's going to be a truly transformative level of service that will make the new Kitchener-Stouffville corridor from Bramalea to Unionville an incredibly useful transit corridor for the system, connecting to Line 2 and Line 5 on both ends. Just another example of just how much better transit in Toronto has become since I started this channel. Thanks for watching.